My friend Daniel makes $58,000 a year. He drives a 2011 Honda with a cracked bumper. He's never had a big break, never invested in crypto at the right time, never inherited a dime. And last year, his net worth crossed $340,000. Meanwhile, a guy I used to work with pulled in $190,000 a year. Nice car, nicer apartment, vacations every quarter. He's basically broke, living paycheck to paycheck on nearly 200 grand a year. That should be impossible, but it's not. It's actually the most common story in personal finance, and almost nobody talks about why. Here's the thing that took me years to understand. It's not the income that makes people rich. It's a handful of small, boring, repeatable habits, done in the right order, that compound into something that looks like luck from the outside. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what those habits are. Two of them, in particular, are going to sound completely backwards from everything you've been told about building wealth. One of them Daniel does every single Sunday night, and it takes him 11 minutes. I'll get to that one. But first, let's talk about the habit almost everyone gets wrong from day one. The one that quietly keeps smart, hardworking people broke for decades. It's this idea that saving money is the goal. It's not. Saving money is defense. Building wealth requires offense. And most people spend their entire adult life playing defense, wondering why the score never changes. So let's start there, with the shift that has to happen before any of the other habits even matter. The first habit is what I call paying yourself like a bill, not a leftover. Most people save whatever's left after expenses. Problem is, there's never anything left. Expenses expand to fill whatever space you give them. This is basic behavioral economics, the same principle behind Parkinson's law, except applied to your bank account instead of your to-do list. The fix is almost insultingly simple. You automate a transfer to savings or investments the same day your paycheck lands, before you see the number, before you feel it. Not 10% if you can't do 10. Even 3% automated beats 20% you plan to do manually. I've watched people white-knuckle their way through manual saving for years and fail every single month. The second they automated it, it just worked. Because willpower is unreliable. Systems aren't. That's habit one. Small, but it rewires the entire game. Because now your future self isn't negotiating with your present self every payday. Your present self already lost that fight the moment the automation ran. The second habit is uncomfortable to say out loud, but here it is. Rich people are obsessed with cost per hour, not price tags. When Daniel looks at a purchase, he's not asking, "Can I afford this?" He's asking, "How many hours of my life does this cost me?" A $1 in $200 impulse buy isn't $1 in $200. At his after-tax rate, it's roughly 30 hours of his actual life, traded for something that'll be in a landfill in 5 years. Once you start seeing purchases in hours instead of dollars, spending gets a lot more honest. This isn't about deprivation, by the way. Daniel still eats out, still travels. He just asks the hour question first, every time, and it's changed almost everything he buys. Now here's where it gets interesting, because habit 3 is the one that flips the entire wealth conversation upside down. And it's the reason your income might genuinely be the least important number in your financial life. Most people think the path to riches: get promoted, earn more, then start investing. Backwards. The order that actually works is control your expense ratio first, then let income growth multiply an already efficient system. Here's why that matters so much. If you're saving 5% of your income and you get a 20% raise and your lifestyle creeps up with it, which statistically it almost always does, you're still saving roughly 5%. You didn't get richer. You got a more expensive version of broke. This is exactly what happened to my old coworker with the $190K salary. Every raise became a nicer car payment. Every bonus became a vacation upgrade. His savings rate never moved because his lifestyle was chasing his income in real time, like a dog chasing a car it'll never catch. Daniel did the opposite. Every time he got a raise, he kept his lifestyle exactly the same for 90 days and automatically redirected the difference into investments. That single habit, a 90-day delay on lifestyle upgrades, is arguably the single highest leverage money habit that exists. and it costs you nothing except patience you already have. Quick gut check before we go further. Comment below the number of days you'd need to sit with a raise before upgrading your lifestyle. I'm genuinely curious what the range looks like because I think most people have never actually asked themselves that question. All right, habit 4. And this is where Daniel's 11-minute Sunday ritual comes in, the one I mentioned at the start. Every Sunday night, he opens one spreadsheet, 11 minutes, timer, and everything. He looks at 3 numbers: what came in, what went out, and what his net worth did that week. That's it. No shame spiral, no elaborate budgeting app with 40 categories he'll abandon in a month. Just 11 minutes of looking directly at reality. Here's why this matters more than any investing strategy you'll ever learn. There's a well-documented psychological phenomenon researchers call the ostrich effect, the tendency to avoid financial information specifically because it might be bad news. People check their Instagram 50 times a day and their bank balance once a month. And it's not laziness, it's avoidance. Daniel's habit works because it removes the emotional charge from money entirely. It becomes as routine as brushing your teeth. You don't feel guilty about brushing your teeth. You just do it. That's what 11 minutes a week does to your relationship with money. It makes wealth building boring. And boring is exactly what sustainable looks like. Now, habit 5 is the one that sounds the most backwards, so stay with me here, because this is the reframe that actually changes how you see debt, risk, and opportunity for the rest of your life. We're taught that debt is the enemy. All debt lumped together, treated like poison. That's incomplete, and it's kept a lot of people from building real wealth. There's a difference between debt that funds a lifestyle and debt that funds an asset. A car loan on a car that depreciates the second you drive it off the lot, that's lifestyle debt, and yeah, minimize that. But a reasonable loan on something that generates income or appreciates over time is a completely different animal. And treating both the same way is like being afraid of all liquids because some of them are acid. Robert Kiyosaki made this distinction the center of his whole philosophy in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out, and debt itself is neutral. It just depends which side of that line it's funding. Wealthy people aren't debt-free. They're debt strategic. There's a real difference, and most people never learn it because nobody teaches nuance. They just teach fear. That reframe alone is worth pausing on, because it explains something that used to confuse me for years. Why some people who have debt are actually wealthier than people who are debt-free but asset-free too. Debt-free with zero assets isn't safety. It's just a different kind of stuck. Habit 6, and this one's personal, because I ignored it for years and it cost me real money. Protecting your downside matters more than chasing your upside. Everyone wants to talk about the next big investment, the next side hustle, the next move that'll 10x their money. Almost nobody wants to talk about the boring stuff. An emergency fund, adequate insurance, a will if you have people who depend on you. It's not exciting. It's the financial equivalent of flossing. But here's the truth nobody puts in a thumbnail. A single uninsured emergency, a single medical bill, a single months-long gap in income without a cushion can undo 5 years of disciplined investing in a matter of weeks. The wealthy don't get wealthy by being the most aggressive. They get wealthy by never being forced to sell at the worst possible moment because they had no other option. Downside protection isn't the opposite of ambition. It's what lets your ambition survive long enough to actually pay off. Habit 7 is shorter, but it hits hard once you sit with it. Track your net worth, not your income. Your income is a snapshot. Your net worth is the whole movie. I know people earning 6 figures whose net worth is negative because of debt and lifestyle, and I know people earning half that whose net worth climbs every single year because they measure the right thing. If you only look at income, you'll always feel like the answer is earn more. Sometimes it is, but often, the real lever is somewhere else entirely, and you'll never see it if income is the only number you're watching. Habit 8, and this connects everything we've talked about, is treating your skills as a compounding asset, the same way you treat an investment account. Daniel spends about 4 hours a week getting better at something directly tied to his income. Not random self-improvement content. Targeted skill building that makes him more valuable in the specific market he operates in. That's not a coincidence, by the way. His salary has grown almost 60% in 4 years without switching companies because he made himself expensive to lose. Compound interest doesn't just apply to money, it applies to skill. A small, consistent investment in your own capability, done for years instead of weeks, produces the same exponential curve you'd see in a well-managed portfolio. Now here's the pivot, the thing that ties all 7 of these together and explains why some people who know all of this still stay broke. None of these habits work in isolation. That's the trap. People try one, they automate savings, feel good for a month, then a big expense hits and they turn it off. Or they read about net worth tracking, do it once and never open the spreadsheet again. Wealth isn't built by any single habit. It's built by the compounding of several boring habits running at the same time, for years, without you needing to feel motivated about any of them. Motivation is not the mechanism. Systems are the mechanism. This is the actual difference between Daniel and my old coworker. Not intelligence, not income, not luck. Daniel built a system that runs whether he feels like it or not. My old coworker was relying on willpower, and willpower runs out by Tuesday. If you're sitting there thinking, I already know most of this, ask yourself honestly, which of these are you actually doing right now on autopilot without having to think about it? Because knowing and automating are 2 completely different things, and only one of them changes your bank account. Here's habit 9, quick but critical. Surround yourself with people whose money conversations push you forward, not sideways. This sounds soft until you actually notice it happening. If every friend group conversation about money is about the newest purchase, the newest vacation, the newest thing to want, your financial instincts get shaped by that, whether you notice it or not. Daniel has one friend, a shopkeeper who built his little hardware store from nothing over 15 years, and every time they talk, the conversation drifts toward reinvestment, toward margins, toward what's working and what isn't. You don't need 5 friends like that. You need one. One person who talks about money like a system instead of a status symbol will change how you think faster than any book will. And the 10th habit, the last one, is the simplest and the hardest. Start before you feel ready. Every single habit on this list is more powerful the earlier you start it, because they all depend on time to actually compound. A mediocre plan running for 10 years will beat a perfect plan running for 2 every single time. People wait for the right moment. More income, more knowledge, more certainty. And that moment functions exactly like a mirage. It always looks close. It never actually arrives. The people who end up wealthy aren't the ones who waited for perfect conditions. They're the ones who started with $50 a month and an imperfect system and let time do what time does. So if you take one thing from the next 10 minutes of your day, let it be this. You don't need a better income to start. You need a better system, running quietly in the background, whether you feel motivated or not. Daniel didn't get lucky. He got consistent for years in ways nobody was watching. And that's exactly the kind of rich that actually lasts, the kind nobody sees coming, and nobody can take away. If this shifted even one thing in how you think about money, share this video with your loved ones. Subscribe, drop a comment with which habit you're starting this week, and I'll see you in the next one.